my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Sunday show where I basically talk about the hottest Golden Age comics of the week. And this is a bit of a special episode because Heritage is doing their signature auction. And this is like the big auction where they pull in some big books. I mean, really big books. There's these ones you just don't see that often, and some haven't even been seen for about 7 years. So pretty cool stuff. Bit of a mixed bag though this week. It's kind of interesting. I was surprised by some of the sales. So let's get right into it. The first sale is a really cool comic, The Human Torch number 23 from Timely 1946. It's a Alex Schomburg cover, and it's just a really cool robot cover. What can I say? It's a cool Alex Schomburg robot cover, giant robot. Can't go wrong with that. And this was an 8.0 that sold, and it sold for $4,920. Now this is up slightly from its June sale. It sold in June of 2024 for $4,800. So it's up a little bit from earlier this year. This is not a book I've seen, actually. I've never seen this one before. Really cool cover, though. I really like it. There's only 80 of these on the census, and 71 are blue labels. Number 9 on the list is Real Life Comics number 3. This is from Nidar, 1942. It's another Alex Schomburg cover. And this is the classic Hitler cover. This is one of the more famous Hitler covers. It's the Emperor of Hate. Real life comics usually would investigate different people from history, and this one is the one that's devoted towards Hitler. So that makes it an extra special book from the Golden Age. This was a 4.5 that sold, and it sold for $6,000. Now, this is the only sale in grade, but I can say that this is down because there was a 4.0 that sold in October of 2024 for $6,000 as well. So this sold for the exact same amount as a half grade lower. So I would have expected this book to sell for maybe $7,000, maybe $7,500, but for it to sell for $6,000 means that it's a little bit down. There are 62 of these on the census, and 59 of them are universal blue labels. Number 8 on the list is Mystery Men number 1. This is from Fox, 1939. It's a Lou Fine cover. And this is the very first appearance of the Blue Beetle. It's also a bondage cover, and it has a crazy psychotic doctor on the cover with a syringe. You got all the the classic elements there. And this one I bid on, to be open. I bid $3,000. Well, let's see how much it sold for. It was a 3.5, and it sold for $6,300. So about twice what I thought I was going to win it with. But yeah, I was way off. So yeah, this one has slightly brittle pages. But the thing that I was a little bit surprised by, actually, I think I looked at the wrong listing when I was kind of guessing how much to bid on this one, because the previous record for this book was actually much higher. It was $9,600 back in November of 2020. So this one's a really cool book too. I mean, I should mention that it's not only the first appearance of the Blue Beetle, but it's also the first appearance of the Green Mask and Ron Dexter from Mars. So this book actually is down from that prior record of 9,600, but that other copy was a white pages, I believe. This copy was slightly brittle pages, and I think generally people kind of shy away from the brittle pages, so they don't command as much money. Now this same book, the exact same copy, sold back in December of 2016 for $3,650. So it's up to itself, I guess, but it's down compared to other copies. So this is where you got to say, well, not all books are created equal, even in grade, because people do shy away from those brittle or slightly brittle pages. You just don't want your comic to turn to dust. So yeah, this one's slightly down from that prior record. 42 of these on the census, and 27 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 7 on the list is one that I have on the list whenever I see it. I put this on the list a lot because I like this book. It's Lawbreakers Suspense Stories, number 11. This is from Charlton, 1953. It's a Lou Morales cover, and it's the one with the severed tongues. Just a really cool. You got the girl in lingerie on the cover. You got guy madman holding a bunch of tongues because he cut all the tongues out of the people from downstairs. That's what he's saying. It also has negligee panels inside, so it's a bit of a racy comic altogether. Now, this one was a 8.5 that sold, and it sold for $14,400. That's actually significantly down. The previous record was for a pedigree copy of this book. This was not a pedigree that just sold, but there was a pedigree copy that sold for $19,200, and that was in January of 2022. And there was also even non-pedigree, so we have a comparative where it sold in April of 2022 for $16,800. So this is down from the record that this book had set back in 2022, about $2,000, $2,400 actually. So I'm not sure why it's down, but it is down. There are 89 of these on the census, and 86 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 6 on the list is More Fun Comics number 73. This is from DC Comics, 1941. It is also from the DC Universal collection. The DC Universal Universe collection is the collection where the woman had collected every single DC book ever produced. So pretty impressive collection. And generally her books were in high grade. But she did one fatal mistake. A lot of her books were restored. So we'll get into that in a second. But this is a very key book. It is the very first appearance of Aquaman, Speedy, and the Green Arrow. So just some major characters' first appearance in this book. All of them don't make a cover appearance. And Aquaman never actually makes a cover appearance in the Golden Age. It's not until Brave and the Bold 28 that he makes a cover appearance. So sadly, they're not on the cover, but this is their first appearance. This was an 8.5 that sold, and it was a restored copy, an A3, so professional moderate restoration. And it sold for $22,800. Now, this is the only sale in a restored 8.5, so we don't really have anything that's exact comparative, but we can compare it to a few things. 8.0 copy sold for like a 8.0 blue label sold for $104,562 back in November of 2016. So probably an 8.0 or 8.5 blue label would go for maybe $150,000 to $200,000. So a lot more now. So this is roughly 1/10 of the value of that potential blue label that I would expect to sell for. So really, pretty low value for a restored copy. Now, other restored copies and other grades have sold for actually more than this too. A 7.5 restored copy sold back in July of 2020 for $26,400. So about $4,000 more, and yet one whole grade less, which is a little bit shocking. There was also a 7.0 that even sold for more recently though. It was a restored copy, 7.0, that sold for $34,000. So generally the restored books weren't necessarily performing that bad. More like 15 to 20% of fair market value for the blue label. But this one didn't perform very well. I don't, maybe because of the moderate extent, like it's moderate restoration. I don't know, but it was professional restoration. Um, there are 65 of these on the census, and 37 of them are Universal Blue Labels. That just shows you how many of them were restored. Number 5 on the list is Marvel Mystery Comics number 46. This is from Timely 1943. It's another Alex Schomburg cover, and it's the it's my favorite actually Hitler cover from the Golden Age, because you got this crazy bondage thing going on. These couples being lowered into like a, looks like almost like a blender. Alex Schomburg's great for just having a crazy amount of details in his covers, and then you have Hitler with this massive head, looks like a almost like a green apple, and it's got a worm coming out of his ear. It's just crazy cover. And he's like sitting on a throne that has like skulls on it. It's just a really cool cover. One that I've been wanting to get for a long time, actually. But yeah, this one, yeah, really cool, cool book. It was a 5.0 Blue Label. I feel like I have to say that because the previous one was restored. 5.0. And this one sold for $24,000. This is up from the previous record, which was set back in January of 2023 for $22,800. So it's up significantly, about $2,000, like $1,200 from the prior record. So not bad return. There are 60 of these on the census, and 49 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 4 on the list is Pep Comics number 22. This is from MLJ 1941. It's Irv Novak cover, and it is the first appearance of pretty much the main Archie characters. So you got Archie, you got Betty Cooper, and Jughead all make their first appearance in this book. It's also like, though they make their first appearance inside the book, because a lot of these early books were anthologies. So this was an anthology. They would have like like superhero stories, and then they wanted to have some extra story that is non-superhero. So they had an Archie story, a very first Archie story. This cover is one of these classic ones with the boot of the evil boot trying to like stomp on the hero, and it's like, not Nazi / Japanese boot, I guess. Just a really cool cover. But doesn't feature them on the cover. Doesn't feature the first appearance people on the cover. It's not until a few issues later that they actually ever make the cover. This was a 1.0 that sold, and it sold for $43,200. Now, this is the only book in this grade that has sold. And the only thing we have to compare it with is really a 1.5 that sold for $33,334 in March of 2016. So I don't know if this is down. I would say because it's up compared to the 1.5. So you think, oh, maybe it's really high, but that was in 2016. I would expect a 1.5 to sell for around 60,000 now. So I don't know. I feel like this one is kind of maybe in line with what you would expect it to sell for, maybe a little low. I'm a little bit surprised because usually in these bigger books, there's a lot of price compression in those lower grades where even a 1.0, 1.5, even up to a 2 sometimes, you can almost see very little price difference. But yeah, still a strong sale. There are 37 of these on the census, and 21 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Number 3 on the list is Whiz Comics number 2/1. It's actually on the cover of this book. It is not labeled number 1 or number 2 or whatever. It's just Whiz Comics. Inside, it's denoted as being number 2 because there was an earlier comic that was from Fawcett, but this one was really their first Fawcett priced book where it has actually Fawcett on the cover. It's kind of a weird story, but it's considered to be number 1 but it's actually number 2. Um, so it's Fawcett, 1940. It's a C.C. Beck cover. It's actually the first appearance of Captain Marvel and his biggest nemesis, Dr. Savannah. Um, and also, it's a first appearance of Ibis and the Golden Arrow and Dan Dare and Lance O'Casey, and the Spy Smasher. So a whole bunch of major Fawcett characters made their first appearance in this book. So pretty major book for Fawcett, and for people that collect Captain Marvel, this is the book. This is the grail for Fawcett collectors. This was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold for $48,000. Now, the previous record for this book was set back in 2009. This book does not come up very often in these lower grades. It's very rare. And it sold for $10,852 back then. I would have expected it to sell for maybe 3 or 4 times, which this is in line of. But according to Go Collect, they cite the fair market value of this as being $62,000, which might be actually a pretty accurate assessment of what the going rate should be for this book. So this is kind of about $14,000 below what the fair market value should be, because there was a 3.0 that recently sold back in April of 2023 for $96,000. So $60,000 would probably be more in line with what the 3.0 had sold for. So for it to sell for $48,000 means that it is down. I had to do a bit of an explanation there because, it's up compared to the previous sale, but it's down compared to what you would expect this book to sell for. There are only 64 of these on the census, and of that 64, only 33 are blue labels. So this is one of the few blue label copies of the book. Number 2 on the list is Fantastic Comics number 3. This is from Fox, 1940. It's another Lou Fine cover. A bunch of Lou Fines and a bunch of Alex Schomburgs on this list. It's just the way the list is. This is another classic robot cover. This is just this. I think people like when robots attack cities, and this is that. You got the robot, it's just going out, and it's like this. Lou Fine was really good at drawing robots. You could see the whole elements of the robot, in the almost like the cables inside of his arm and all the kind of elements that make the robot a robot-y thing. Just a really cool cover. And this was a 1.8 that sold, and it sold for $90,000. Big sale for this book, way more than I would have expected, because the previous record for this book was set back in September of 2021, September of 2021, and it sold for back then $40,800. So it's way up. It's more than double what it had sold for just 3 years ago. Now, part of that is I was looking at comparatives. I was looking at comparatives in other grades to see maybe if was there a recent other sale. No, there wasn't. So the 1.8 that sold 3 years ago was the most recent sale for this book. This book does not come up very often. All the other sales were anywhere from 7 to 10 years ago. So for other grades. So this book, I think people saw it and they wanted it. Not going to come up for a while. They decided to pick it up. There's 28 of these on the census, and 17 are universal blue labels. Number 1 on the list is the book that you would expect to be number 1 in a way. It is Detective Comics number 27. This is from DC Comics, 1939. It is a Bob Kane cover, and it is the very first appearance of Batman and Commissioner Gordon. It is the Grail of Grails. So it's rated as number 2 of the most desired comics of all time. So this is the biggest, it's number 1 on the list for obvious reason. Now this one was an interesting sale because it was a 0.5 that sold. and it sold for $312,000. That is a massive sale. Um, Somebody really wanted this book, and it's got brittle pages and the wrong back cover. So I was shocked by this one. This one did not make sense to me. I think somebody really overpaid for this one, because we got to compare it to other things, right? Now, a 1.0 hasn't sold for a long time. So the most closest grade is a 1.0. Like the last 1.0 sale was back in 2004 for $23,000. There was a 1.5 that was in 2009, and it sold for $83,000. So this is way above both of those. There was a 2.0 that sold in 2012 for $116,513. Gotta get all the numbers there. And then there was a 3.0 though that sold this year for in April of 2024 for $600,000. Now, obviously, if you do the math on this, you would expect a 0.5 to sell for about $100,000. Like, so this is way above, way above what you would expect a 0.5 to sell for. Maybe it, stretching it out, like sometimes there's price compression in those lower grades. Maybe 200,000 I would have expected, maybe. But 300,000? Wow, that's a big sale. I think somebody really overpaid for this, but you can see just based on the sales that I mentioned, this book does not come up very often in lower grades. Like, people basically hold on to it. The other sales were the most recent sales that I mentioned. Only the 3.0 was this year. The other ones were like 12 years ago or more. So some people will pay up if they can't get the book for a while. So yeah, they didn't want to wait another 10 years. So that's it. What did you think of these books? Did you think people got some steals on some of them and maybe overpaid on others? I'd love to hear your opinion. Put it in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.